Welcome back to Beyond the Shallows. I hope that you had a very Merry Christmas and that you are beginning your start to a Happy New Year. I love New Year's. I love the beginning of the year. I love figuring out what my goals are, what my plans are for the next year. And so that is what this episode is all about. But before we get into that, just a quick reminder, you can pre-order my book, Beyond the Shallows. It is out April 1st. Yes, April Fool's Day. My book comes out, Beyond the Shallows, Life is Better in the Deep End. If you want to understand how God made you, how your heart works, He has the best information on you. God has the best information on you. And so we take a deep dive into Scripture to figure out how the Bible talks about the heart. And it's been a joy to write. I have learned a lot about my own heart just by writing the thing, and I'm so excited to get it in your hands. I cannot wait. And so pre-order it now. And also, this episode is also brought to you by youthworshiptraining.com. I'm so excited about that as well. It is a resource that you can use for your church to grow up the next generation of worship leaders. And we desperately need it. Just in 2024, I saw a stat near the beginning of 2024 that said there would be around 6,000 open worship leader positions in churches. And throughout the course of the year, only 1,000 students would graduate with their degree in worship ministry. That is not great, okay? We are not replacing worship leaders very well. And so what we need to do is we need to create a discipleship pipeline for the next generation of worship leaders to be brought up and inspired to lead the church in singing and to worship our King. And it's no easy task to do. There's a lot that goes into it. I was talking to somebody just the other day, and he was like, "You mean leading worship is more about just being able to fit into your skinny jeans?" And I said, "Oh yes, it's a lot more than that." And so we want to get our high schoolers started out in worship ministry in a very healthy way, very biblical way, and you can be a part of equipping them. Reach out to me and I can let you know about how you can be involved, even if you have no musical ability. Maybe you want to sponsor somebody to be involved in worship ministry, and I can get you connected with a student who desperately needs to be in youthworshiptraining.com. So check it out. And now we are going to talk about New Year's stuff. Well, it's no small secret that New Year's goals and New Year's resolutions, they just don't last. A lot of times that's linked to very selfish goals, very ambitious goals, and things that are not sustainable for a whole year. And a lot of our goals really do stink sometimes. And so I have put together a little document that if you would like this page, I'd be more than happy to email it to you. Just email me at jason@youthworshiptraining.com, and in the subject line, type in New Year's document. And I will gladly send that to you for free, no charge whatsoever. And I'm going to walk through it in the video format here. If you're listening on audio, you'll still get plenty out of this. The document is called New Year's New Ideas, right? And the reason that I didn't title it New Year's New Goals or something like that, or New Year's Resolutions, is because that's not really the point. The point of New Year's and new goals and new dreams and ambitions and stuff, we want to get ourselves out of the limelight here, and let's really dive in and use some questions, use some prompts that I've prepared in order to help us figure out how do we make our lives meaningful, and how do we make a lot of impact with our lives throughout the course of this next year. And so let's dive right in. The first prompt that I have in this little document says, gave me life last year. Okay, so on one side of the page, I've got this little prompt. On the other side of the page, it's a little bit of space to write. You could do this on your own. The first one is gave me life last year. One of the best ways to look forward at what God has for us in the year to come is to look in at our past year and do a little bit of excavating, a little bit of digging around to figure out what were the things that were working and what were the things that weren't. And that is exactly what we're doing here. Let's start with a win. What went well last year? What do we want to replicate? What do we want to continue? Because a lot of times we think about New Year's in the terms of things that need to change. And I love thinking about things that need to change. That really gets me excited. But I have to remind myself there were some things that were good from last year. So that may be, maybe you stuck with a diet. Maybe you made time for your family, and maybe you had a particular vacation that went really well. Maybe something at work really clicked. Maybe you worked it out with that coworker that has always been an issue, and you were able to find some peace there, and you want to continue that, but you know that you need to invest some time in that. Do a little bit of a diagnostics of your last year. What gave you life last year? What did you do? What were you involved in? What type of ministry stuff, family stuff? What gave you life? And really take a good look at those things and really write down, in this space, 3 or 4 things that you want to make sure that you prioritized last year. Okay. The next prompt is good use of time. What do you feel like was a good use of your time? Now, this is different from what worked last year because sometimes things that are a good use of our time aren't things that produce great results. Some things that are life-giving to us don't actually pay us back, right? Anything ministry related for me could be in this category. Ministry stuff doesn't necessarily pay you really, really well, but it's such a good use of my time. I feel fulfillment when I do it, or I know that somebody else has benefited because of it. So what was a good use of your time in 2024, and what can continue to be a good use of your time in 2025? Now, of course, you can take this and you can flip this on its head and say, well, what was a bad use of my time? Doom scrolling on TikTok or Instagram, probably not a good use of your time, right? And so what are some things that you may need to implement or put into practice in order to make sure that you're making the most of your time? Because time is your most valuable commodity. It is not your money. It is your time that is the most valuable thing that you own. And so how do you have good use of that time? Now, for me, a really practical way that I have found that I've gotten some good use of my time is by deleting, and I really do mean deleting off of my phone, some social media apps. Now, not all of the time. I am allowed to log back in. Thankfully, Apple remembers all of my passwords, and it uses my face to unlock my phone, which I am very thankful for because it makes it very easy for me to delete Instagram, TikTok, Facebook, YouTube, anything that I feel like is a time suck on my life and takes me out of the present moment. I delete it off of my phone, especially when I feel like it is getting too addictive. And for the most part, most times during the week, I will not have any social media on my phone during the week, and I reserve social media for Saturdays. And only having one day to engage on social media keeps it from being addictive to me, and it helps me make good use of my time. So I've found good use of my time. I found that I'm able to be more present with my kids and more involved in the moment and aware and conscious when I don't have the things that are poor uses of my time. So my encouragement to you is to consider something like that. Consider some type of limitations on your phone, because that's probably one of the main ways that you are wasting your time this in 2024. Now, I will say that deleting things off of my phone has been beneficial. It does not mean that the allure of the phone has gone away. The other day, I realized I had deleted everything off of it, and I picked up my phone, and I just had like a couple of minutes, but in between things, and I wanted to fill that space with something. And normally usually YouTube is the place where I go, right? I like the shorts there. I like scrolling around there. And so I went, but I deleted YouTube off my phone, and I literally just like swiped through the apps on my phone. It was like there's nothing there's nothing to entertain myself with for just a couple of minutes on my phone. But I kind of like stubbornly sat there and like swiped through looking for something. And really, like, instead of setting it down and living in the moment, I was just kind of like, I don't know what to do. And so I just didn't do anything and just kept looking at my phone. And basically it was like looking as if I was looking at a blank screen for like 2 or 3 minutes until, the time passed or whatever. And so it takes some getting used to. It takes some working through. And so, but I do encourage you, find out what was a good use of your time and write it out. It can be volunteering. It could be any number of things. So, all right, the next one. I love this one. Who did you help in 2024? I helped someone. I helped blank, right? Like really, really go deep with this one, okay? Don't just think about Giving Tuesday. Don't just think about November and December and the end of the year and your fiscal charitable gifts. Think all the way back to the summer. The vacation time, the whatever, was there anyone, maybe like a homeless person that you gave a care package to, or a couple of dollars to help keep them warm, or to buy them a lunch or something like that? Who did you help? Who did you help last year? And of course, I helped these people. Okay, that should prompt you to think in 2025, who am I going to help? Who am I most positioned to help? Now, here's a couple of things to consider when you're thinking about who you helped and who you want to help in the future. You are most primed, you are most prepared to help the person that you once were. And so when you're thinking about the people that you want to help in your life, maybe you have a ton of compassion for people who are homeless, and you don't have to have been homeless in order to help them. But you may also be capable of helping somebody who is in sports. Maybe you were a sports star. Maybe you did softball or baseball or football, or in my case, I did gymnastics, right? Maybe there is somebody who is involved in sports that is just slammed with that schedule. It would be very difficult to find time to meet with them, but you know that you could say the right words to them to encourage them and to equip them with what they need in order to be successful in their spiritual walk with the Lord, or even in their sport. Like, who can you help? Find the person that you were in the past and help them. That's exactly why I wrote Beyond the Shallows. In high school, I learned so many of the lessons that I learned in that book, and recently had a phone call with one of my mentors who really walked with me through a lot of stuff and understanding my own heart and diving deep into the heart and dismantling lies that I had believed. And my goodness, that's why I want to write this book. I want to help my own kids when they're in high school to be able to, I want to be the person who helps them discover their own heart. And so I'm trying to help the person that I once was, my very own kids who are now growing faster than, they're not in high school yet, but it feels like it's going to be a blink and they're going to be there. And so I want to help them. I'm going to position myself to produce content, to create things that help the person that I once was. Okay. All right. Next one on the list. The prompt is, I missed. Okay, what did you miss in 2024? It could be a particular event. I remember one year. I mean, I grew up in, the 90s and the 2000s. And one year, Switchfoot and Reliant K went on tour and were in my city. And I knew that the radio station that I listened to a lot had free tickets. And if you could find the guy who was the radio host, you could get free tickets to this concert. But I had a ton of homework. And so I begged my mom, I begged my parents, man, can I go and can I try to find the guy to try to get free tickets to this concert, two of my favorite bands? And I missed it. I couldn't finish my homework in time. And by the time I finished my homework, the concert had already started, and I was pretty sure that the tickets were gone. And so it was a huge disappointment. And I feel that even now today, I'm okay. I'm not mad at my parents. I'm not bitter against them or anything like that. I should have gotten my homework done much much sooner, but I missed out on that experience. I missed out on that event. And our family in 2024, we wanted to go to the beach. We kind of had flaky plans to go to the beach, and then that fell through. I missed that. I missed going to the beach. I'd really love in 25 to make the beach happen. And so I'm going to make plans to do that, because every time we go, it's memorable. Every time we go, our kids have a great time. It's not super expensive, and we can really have some really great quality time together as a family. And so I'm going to plan some things with my family. I hate planning. I hate planning the trip itself. I like going on the trip. I hate planning the trip itself, but I missed going on a trip, so I'm going to do much better in 25 about planning a trip. Okay, maybe you missed out on something at work. Maybe it doesn't have to be even an experience. Maybe it could be a person. I miss my best friend, Joe. He lives up in Virginia, and it's just hard for us to get together because I'm in Georgia, and that seems like a long way to go. But man, I miss him. I really want to work out a way to see him or just FaceTime him more, right? So what did you miss in 24 that you can make as a priority in 25? The next one is I must. Now, this one has a sense of urgency to it, and that is the whole point. Now, this one could go a couple of different ways. The way that I intend it for myself personally, that's the best way that I can explain I must. If I was to finish that sentence, I must tell people about my book, right? I worked really, really, really hard. I worked my tail off to get that book done. It is super polished. It is great. It's going to be on an audiobook format. It's going to be in paperback format. I must actually tell people about it. I have worked too hard to just sit back and be like, well, the Lord told me to write this book. He didn't tell me to sell this book and market the book. No, that's not how life works. I must, even though it feels weird and it feels like self-promoting to say, I have a book and you should buy it. No, I really do believe that book can change someone's life for the better and help them deepen their relationship with themselves, with God, and with other people. I must do what it takes in order to let people know that it is a resource that they need, right? I feel that really, really deeply. I feel a spiritual, holy responsibility to do the work that God has given me to do to promote that book well. Okay? That's the type of thing that I'm talking about here for me personally. I'm not saying I must get to the beach, right? That's something that I missed. That's something that I want. That's something that I think I could plan that better and it wouldn't take a lot of effort. But this is the type of thing that we're getting into now where it connects with something in your heart. What is the God-given desire in you that connects with who he made you to be? This also connects with the help. Who did I help in the last year? Who am I going to help in this next year? Who must you connect with in order to help those people well, right? Because if you, here's another thing to keep in mind when you pursue the must. It is very easy to put your nose to the grindstone and work really hard to accomplish something that is significant to you in your own heart that you can do over the short term, right? And so if you want to go fast, go by yourself. But if you want to go far, find somebody else who also feels this thing in them that's like, I must do this thing, right? And for me, this boils down to my calling. My calling is to use my voice, right? That's the simple way, and it's in 4 areas that I found that I can use my voice. So I must write books. I must speak. I must sing, and I must write music, right? Those 4 things are like, God has given me the desire and the talent and the drive. And when I pour myself out into doing those things, he fills me up again, right? Those are the things that I have to do. I must, because I carry the responsibility, I must be a good dad in 2025. The responsibility of my calling and my career and the things that God has called me to do does not supersede my calling as a father. I have 4 souls that are young and impressionable, that are under my spiritual authority, and a fifth one, my wife, that is also under my spiritual authority as the head of the household here, that I must take good care of them. That means that I must make sure that they have a good, strong Christian community around them. I must make sure that they have access to the Word and access to me to be able to guide them spiritually and teach them the things that God has shown me in His Word. I must take some responsibility over their spiritual health, their emotional health, their mental health, and I must be involved in a really, really deep way. So what are your musts? Write them in the little space next to the words I must. Okay, this next one is super, super fun. This is a very common prompt for New Year's goals and stuff like that, New Year's resolutions. If I had, fill in the blank, I could, fill in the blank, right? Another way to view this one is imagine that you had $3 million tax-free, just deposited into your bank account. It's there. You have no responsibility over it. Like, what would change? What would change in your life? Now, first of all, would your life just change, or would other people's lives change as well, right? Like, how much is your money actually moving the dial to advance the kingdom of God? That's a good question to ask, right? And if you scaled it up to $1 million, $2 million, $10 million, like, would the percentages change? Right? What would happen to your character? Would you really be able to handle that? Are you the type of person that God could entrust with that amount of money? Right? Like, there's a lot of implications that comes with the if I had, I could scenario. Now, a lot of us are just aiming so small and just, if I just had another $20,000, $30,000, or $40,000 a year in my salary, then I could take these vacations, then I could have a lake house, then I could yada, 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 right? Now, I'm talking about way, way bigger than that. If you had the unlimited checkbook thing, what could you do to make, yes, your world better, but also the world better? And what type of impact do you think you could have? There's a lot of responsibilities that comes with resources. And so it's good to, maybe you have those types of resources, which in that case, God bless you. And I've got some ways that through me, you can spend that money. Yeah, fine. Just contact me. But most of us don't. Most of us are sitting here wishing, man, I wish I had more money so that I could. But a lot of times we never get to the second part. It's like, man, I just wish I had more money because it would make life easier. It doesn't. It makes it more complicated because of this question. If you had, then what would you do with it, right? So dream big. Just write out without shame, without a sense of like, oh, well, I need to, whatever. If you want the private jet, whatever, okay, yeah, fine. See how many of those things you can list. Seriously, like, see how many of those things you can list before it actually gets down to things that are meaningful for other people. Go ahead, give yourself permission to be selfish. If you had unlimited resources, what all would you buy? It wouldn't take you very long to spend that money. And then what would you do with it? If you still had more after you got all of the things that you just want, that is just stuff, what would you do with it? It's a great exercise because you need to be thinking about how you are using your resources now, not just to better your life, but to better the lives of someone else, to help someone else in need. Okay, next, my family needs. My family needs. Now, this is different than my family wants. Okay, that's kind of what we had in the last prompt, is all of your wants. If you had unlimited resources, this is different. My family needs, and specifically, my family needs me too. Right? For me personally, my family needs me to not have social media on my phone during the week. My family needs me when I come down the stairs, because this is an upstairs room that I'm recording this podcast in. When I walk down the stairs, it used to be that I had a commute that was 1 mile long from my church office to my home. And I never valued that, but it was quiet space in the car for 120 seconds or so, and it was a way to like reset myself from work Jason to home Jason. And now that I work in the home, I have about 10 seconds of stepping down 13 or so 14 stairs in order to go downstairs, and then I need to be home Jason at that time. And then sometimes this office, what you can't see is that there's still remnants of Christmas happening behind me in this office right now. And so home life is work life now. This is where I am, and my family needs me to be able to do that and to do that well. I've actually enjoyed it. It's been different and it's been difficult, but it doesn't mean that it hasn't also been beneficial and life-changing as well, and good. And so my family needs me to be able to make the switch between work Jason and home Jason much faster, right? My family also needs me to put food on the table, which means that there are decisions that Jason has to make about how we as a family are going to make money. And I say that as a we because, yes, Jason is doing a lot of the work, but we as a family are a team and we are involved in all of that. And if I turn into a workaholic, which is my default, then it's not going to go well. And so my family needs me to find a balance between working hard and becoming a workaholic, providing for them, and also being present. And sometimes it's just a matter of me being able to flick that switch and be present for them in the moment when I am around them. Okay. Other things that my family needs. My family needs me to be emotionally available. They need to know honestly where I'm at, and I don't need to hide things from them. My family needs me to lead them spiritually. So that can happen in a number of ways. One of my favorite, when I stepped down from my role in worship ministries, one of my favorite Sundays was the second Sunday, the next Sunday after I stepped down out of my role. We just did church at home, and I just grabbed a guitar and we sang some songs, and it was a really sweet moment. My wife has a little video on her phone of all four of my kids just belting out worship music on the porch, and then I gave a little short sermon, and it was sweet and intimate, and they had good questions, and we had a good discussion. And I know that we need other people other than our family involved in our lives, and so we didn't continue to do that. But I see why home churches work, because that was such a sweet experience to see my kids being able to personally be the one discipling them in that moment, right? And so I need to do that more. I can do that more in 2025. I just need to be really intentional about it. All right, the next one. I can't change. These two, the last two go together. I can't change and I can change. What can you change about 2025, and what can't you change about 2025? There are some things that are just out of our control. I know a lot of people want to have kids in 2025, and they've been trying for years and years, and they can pray about it and they can put something down on their New Year's resolutions, but that doesn't necessarily guarantee that it's going to happen. I do believe that there's healing for people who are struggling with infertility and stuff like that. And yeah, I would love to join you in prayer. And so if that's a particular prayer request of yours, please email me, jason@youthworshiptraining.com, and I would love to join you in your prayer journey for that. But there are some things that you can't change, and maybe God can change it, but there are some things that are beyond our control. And so it's good to be aware of that. Maybe a can't is that you can't change careers. Maybe you can't quit your job. Maybe you can't go on that vacation this year. Maybe you can't have that friendship that you really want. Maybe you can't, I don't know, maybe your job requires social media, and so you can't take social media off of your phone, right? But there are some things that are under your control. And so I guess this one is more about making sure that your goals are realistic, right? The things that you can change, you should look at changing. The things that are under your power, you should certainly consider doing something in order to benefit your life in the beginning of the new year, because God has great things for you. And sometimes we just sit back and wait for him to do stuff. And he's sitting there going, no, you need to get up and actually make the change, actually start the ball rolling. I have found that it's a lot easier for God to steer us in the right direction if we are in motion. And so, yeah, just take action, change the things that you can. Now, for me, of course, some of the things that I can change, that need to change this year, diet and exercise, man, that is moving close to the top of the list. I'm going to be one of those people who's going to be trying to struggle through the first few months of the year and to continue on into the summer, Lord willing, with more exercise, more dietary restrictions and whatnot in order to be healthy, because one of the things that I can't change is that my kids are growing up. And I can't go back in time and be more active with them, right? I get one shot at that. And so, taking care of my body is a way that needs to happen. Now, another thing I can't change is the shoulder surgery that I need to have, right? That is something that needs to happen in order for me to keep up with my kids, is to schedule the shoulder surgery and go through with it and go through recovery and then do the physical therapy required in order to get back up to speed so that I can be there for my kids and be involved and not be complaining and popping ibuprofen so much. So what can you change? What can't you change? That's a good way to get some of those really, really practical things that are normally on our New Year's list. So what is your New Year's ideas? What are the things that you want to see happen this year? Comment down below. Let me know. I'd love to get some good ideas. What did I miss? What are some prompts that you use? What is the questions that you use in order to motivate yourself to change, to motivate yourself to growing more in the next year? I want to know about that. This has been another episode of Beyond the Shallows. I really thought that this episode was going to go about 10 minutes, and here we are 30 minutes in. Man, thank you for sticking with me. If you are sticking with me, I assume you've already ordered your copy of Beyond the Shallows. My encouragement to you is please send this episode to somebody, or just reach out to somebody and say, hey, I've got a friend who's written this book. It's going to be good. Just trust me. This is one that you want on your reading list for 2025. Oh, I should have done that. What do you need to read this year? Well, the first thing on the list after April 1st is Beyond the Shallows. Yeah. What's a book that you enjoy? Why don't you comment that down below? What's a book that I should read in 2025? I love a great book, and I'm doing a very long series right now, long fantasy series. Maybe I should talk about that in one of the episodes. That would be a very niche topic, but thank you for hanging out with me today. Thank you for listening to me, and I just hope that you have a wonderful new year. Be intentional about your new year. Be intentional about the time that you spend thinking about what's coming in this next year. Find the things that are high value to you and take action to make some of that stuff happen this year. God bless, and I'll see you next week, dear friend. you